Coming up on today's show, we're going to check out Mel Kiper's brand new 2-round mock draft and see who he has Chicago selecting with their 3 picks in rounds 1 and 2. But before we get into all of that, we've got an NFL draft YouTube channel here at Chat Sports that just exclusively covers the draft. So if you're looking for more draft content, make sure to hit us up over at youtube.com/chatnfl. Welcome into Bears Now by Chat Sports. No, this is not Harrison Graham without a beard. This is Matthew Peterson filling in for Harrison while he is on paternity leave. So bear down and spam FGB in the comment section right now. The guy's a workaholic, and I'm going to explain why throughout this video, but he is still doing everything possible to keep you guys informed and up to date on all things Chicago Bears related. So with that, let's check out Mel Kiper's latest 2-round mock draft. So here's how the cookies fall. So with first overall pick, the Carolina Panthers went Bryce Young, CJ Stroud afterwards. No surprise there. We had the Titans make a trade and jump up to number 3 with Arizona and select Anthony Richardson. And then Will Levis went 4th. So 4 quarterbacks in a row. Highly unlikely, I think, but hey, you never know. Jalen Carter at 5 to Seattle. So Will Anderson falls all the way to Detroit at 6. The Illinois cornerback Devon Witherspoon to the Raiders at 7. The Falcons keep a UGA Bulldog in the Peach State by selecting Nolan Smith. And the Bears at number 9 select Darnell Wright, offensive tackle out of Tennessee. Now, a little background on the right tackle who measured in at the NFL Combine, 6'5", 333 pounds. In his career in Knoxville, 42 starts, 27 of which happened at right tackle. He had 2 starts at right guard briefly, and his junior year he played at left tackle. Didn't really go well at left tackle, so he seesawed from right tackle to left tackle and then back to right tackle where he was a much better fit. A first-team All-SEC player last season in Tennessee's Alabama game, he absolutely shut down Will Anderson. So he knows how to go up against some of the best in college football. Here's how PFF graded him last season. 895 snaps, so a healthy amount of usage. Overall grade, 71.4. Great pass blocking, 80.2. That is definitely his forte. He gave up 0 sacks last season. Now, Mel Kiper said this about Darnell Wright in his write-up. Wright started 27 games at right tackle in college. His tape against Will Anderson Jr. in Alabama was phenomenal. He's the best right tackle in this class. My pal Louis Riddick is a huge fan too. This is a selection to keep Justin Fields clean. Darnell Wright being the first offensive lineman off the board, ahead of Paris Johnson, is definitely a choice for Mel Kiper. I don't know if he had too much pumpkin pie, if he was getting a little bit frisky with his pumpkin pie, but Darnell Wright definitely can come in and step in at right tackle immediately, which is the biggest hole on this offensive line right now. I mean, the offensive line's definitely going to have some musical chairs going on once we get into training camp to see where everyone fits in best. But I think when you're going best player available, it's not Darnell Wright, which leads me to this. The big question that the Bears have to answer when they're on the clock at number 9. Should they go strictly best player available, right? Kind of regardless of position, excluding quarterback. Or should they draft for a need, right? Knowing, hey, Paris Johnson might be higher up on our list, but we've got a left tackle. We like Braxton Jones. We don't need a left tackle. Let's go right tackle. To me, I'm a big fan of best player available, but I don't think you have a bad pick when you go with Darnell Wright. So get your red pen out and grade the selection Mel Kiper had for Chicago. An A, B, C, D, or F. I'm going to give you my letter grade in just a moment, but sound off for me in the comment section. I'm going to go with a B. I don't think it's bad. I really don't. I think Darnell Wright, and I'm not saying this because we went to the same college. Shout out to the University of Tennessee. But I'm saying it because he can come in and be a week 1 starter and a very good one. For a while, Bears fans were kind of drooling over the prospect of Darnell Wright in the 2nd round. So jumping all the way to 9 is a big jump, but you're still getting a good player. Could you get better players at number 9? Yes, and that's why for me, it's not a B+, it's not an A- pick. You're drafting more for need than best player available, and the Bears aren't one guy away from doing something in 2023. They should be looking for the best talent on the board. Now, I do want to say this about Darnell Wright. The guy's feisty, okay? If you're looking for an offensive lineman that's got a chip on his shoulder, he DM'd some Bengals reporter or some Bengals YouTuber, Willie Lutz, and said, "You're a pure dick eater." So that's definitely one of my favorite new insults. Didn't call him a jive turkey, so I guess it's better than that, but he calls guys dick eaters. So shout out to him. They had a nice back and forth, by the way. He sort of walked back everything he called him, which I don't know if that's a red flag or if you want your offensive lineman to stand by his dick eater comments. But hey, he is an aggressive guy on the internet, so we look forward to finding his burner accounts if we end up calling him a bust and whatnot. Moving on to round number 2. BJ Ojulari from LSU. He was a first-team All-SEC player last year and a 2-year starter for the Tigers. Now, he has not always been consistent throughout games, in my opinion, right? He looks like some plays, I wouldn't say taking plays off, but if he's not going to be able to sack the quarterback, he takes his foot off the gas a little bit and is not maybe so committed to stopping the run. He's also a bit of an in-betweener when it comes to, is he a defensive end in a 4-3 front, or is he an outside linebacker? I'm not quite sure, and that's really up to NFL coaches to figure out where he can best be utilized. LSU used him in both ways. Sometimes they had him in a 3-point stance. Sometimes they had him standing up, coming off the edge. So a little bit kind of like Leonard Floyd when he made the transition from defensive end to outside linebacker. Will Ojulari fare the same way? Now, here's what Kiper said about BJ. When you watch Ojulari's tape from 2021 and 2022, he often looks like a top 20 pick. Then there are some plays in which he gets blown off the ball and looks like a day 3 selection. Can he put all his talent together? He had 80 QB pressures over the past 2 seasons. The Bears badly need help getting after quarterbacks. If they don't take an edge rusher at number 9 overall, they have to add one here. I definitely agree that one of the first 2 picks for Chicago has to be an edge rusher. Now, Ojulari last season, 8.5 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks. The productivity is not there. What's not on screen or it's not showing through his stats is the pressures, right? The ability to kind of blow up plays, even if it does not result in a sack. It's a wasted down, and defensive coordinators and GMs love that. Personally, I'm not very high on Ojulari. He kind of reminds me of a guy who just takes plays off, and he's looking for the home run swing, the boomer bust type plays. And in the NFL, that's not going to cut it. You need guys who can come in and play 3 downs a series and not just every so often arrive and make a couple sacks here and there and then just vanish for a couple of games. So I also don't think he'd be a great fit in a 4-3 front. I think he's too small to be a defensive end, and he doesn't have the athleticism to be an outside linebacker. So I'm not really sure where Chicago would put him on their defensive side other than just bringing him in for obvious passing situations. Before we check out the 3rd selection Kiper had for Chicago, FGB, baby. This has been my rally cry for as long as I can remember as someone who grew up in the Chicagoland area. Hating the Packers and hating Aaron Rodgers runs through my blood. So make sure you get your own FGB shirts, chatsports.com/FGB. Now, Harrison is on paternity leave right now. He's probably a little busy with the baby coming out soon. So let's sign him into a contract he did not agree. If anyone gets an FGB shirt and takes a picture of it and tags him on Twitter at HGramNFL, I guarantee you he will retweet that without having his permission. So make sure you get your own FGB shirt. My favorite pick of the entire mock draft here. It is straight out of Substitute Teacher, a Key and Peele skit. It is Jaquelin Roy, defensive tackle from LSU. So back-to-back Tigers. He weighed in at 6'3", 305 pounds. Now, he's a bit of a project, and that's why I think round 2 for him is a tad on the early side. I have seen places like Dane Brugler and the Beast from The Athletic say he's a 5th-round guy. So for him and Kiper to have a 3-round difference, That's a bit concerning. And if we're being honest, I like Brugler more than Kiper or McShay anyway. He's a solid run-stopping nose tackle. He is going to displace offensive linemen. He's going to free up linebackers to do their job in the backfield. But he's not going to be like an Akeem Hicks, right? He's not going to offer you a ton of pass rush upside or even great tackles for loss. And that's okay. There are some guys who are not made to fill up the stat sheet, but instead be assist men and let other guys make the big tackles because they ate up a guard and a center on a play. The issue that I have is below average speed, very little quickness, and just overall not some athletic freak that you're looking for in round 2. Now, Kiper had this to say on Jaquelin. Ray is a 305-pound nose tackle prospect who is powerful against the run. He's hard to block. In this scenario, he could battle to start with Andrew Billings, who was signed this offseason. Chicago has to keep building up the trenches. I've gone O-line or D-line with each of their top 3 picks. Now, Jaquelin Roy last season for LSU, 49 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, half a sack, and 1 fumble recovery. Now, the Bears' defensive line hopefully is not a finished product because this, if we're being honest, is very underwhelming for what I thought it would be going into this offseason with bukus of money to spend and lots of draft assets. And what's the turnaround? No offense to Rasheem Green or DeMarcus Walker or Andrew Billings, but I was hoping for some bigger, splashier moves. Like the previous 2 picks, I think it's just a bit early for Jaquelin Roy and BJ Ojulari and Darnell Wright. All 3 of these picks are big reaches, and outside of Darnell Wright, I'm just not crazy about either of the 2 LSU products. So here's Mel Kiper's mock draft for Chicago. Darnell Wright, 9th overall. Ojulari to help out with the worst pass rush in the NFL last year, 20 sacks. And then Jaquelin Roy to try and beef up the trenches as well and get a bit of a rotation going with Billings and Jones. Now, Harrison Graham is a workaholic, and once he saw the Mel Kiper mock draft drop, he sent me his takeaways and his notes, so I wanted to relay that to everyone watching. Darnell Wright, here's what Harrison kind of slacked me. Darnell Wright allows the Bears to keep Braxton Jones at left tackle, and that's a big bonus because I thought Braxton Jones last year showed a lot of promise, and to have a hopeful franchise left tackle on his rookie contract and a cheap one too, that's something GMs can sink their teeth into. The Bears need to add dudes in the trenches. His words should help free up Trayman Edmonds and TJ Edwards, and so that's what Roy could hopefully do, not allow the opposing offensive line to get to the second level. He was a bigger fan of Kiper's mock, the one we just went through, than McShay's mock. Personally, I don't really like either mock draft for Chicago, but give me a number. Grade Kiper's latest Bears mock draft. Scale it 1 to 100. I'm going to give you my grade in just a moment, but give me your scale, give me your grade in the comment section. I think it's a 75. I think it's kind of a C, middle of the road. And that's kind of on the higher side because I like Darnell Wright. Number 9 seems a bit early. Now, we're going to talk about this rumor later on this week, but I've heard some buzz about Pittsburgh maybe picking up the phone, trying to jump up to where Chicago is at 9. And if that's the case and the Bears move back to the late teens, Darnell Wright there feels a lot safer, and you could pick up some more picks as well. Just not a big fan of Ojulari or Jaquelin Roy as prospects in general. So for that reason, I'm giving it a 75. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Hopefully you guys didn't mind the substitute teacher today. Harrison will be back next week. We'll have more videos throughout the week as Harrison pre-filmed a bunch of that before he went on paternity leave. So if you see my face and then you see Harrison's and then you see mine again, that's what's going on. I'm going to sign off and catch up with everyone later.